Hello, and thank you very much for joining us here in the newsroom. I'm Yeon-ji. It's been nearly 2 weeks since President Park Geun-hye took the nation's top office, yet her hands are tied down with no breakthrough at the National Assembly over the much-disputed government restructuring bill. Well, reporters here at Arirang TV have been closely following up on the political wrangling, as well as other stories from in and out of Korea, and had a chance to talk to some of our reporters earlier in the day, and this is what they had to say. In the Newsroom begins right now. Right, what a disappointment in the political front and the prolonged parliamentary deadlock and the confirmation hearing holdups. It was a huge setback for President Park Geun-hye and her administration. Her majority of her cabinet posts are still empty. A lot of the state affairs is up in the air. I mean, it must have been a disappointment for you too, because you've been covering a lot of these developments out of the National Assembly.
That's right. This one viewer from Singapore emailed me saying, "Oh, you must be sick and tired of this political badminton going on." And I said, well, I'm just, that keeps me on my toes these days, but I'm not that burdened by it. So both sides, both ruling and opposition parties, I think have some legitimate concerns, and they're just fighting over it because they think that this issue of, transferring the broadcasting policy oversight to the new science ministry would matter, for people's livelihoods. It has a huge significance. So there's still bickering and wrangling. There's still deadlock at the National Assembly. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and this all came after President Park Geun-hye's plea. It was an emergency address to the nation, wasn't it? Of course, in an apparent move to try to push the opposition party for an early approval of that very bill. But I guess she's feeling extremely desperate right now, and she failed to hold her first cabinet meeting. And the state affairs that, like I just mentioned, like the economic growth or job creation or price stabilization, all these pending issues are just being piled up and stacked on the side. So against this backdrop, earlier this week we did a huge, a series of in-depth coverage on some of the policy goals. And Yeon-ji, you did one on a very important issue. Tell us.
Yes, so I had a chance to talk about President Park Geun-hye's policy for grand national unity. 안녕하세요. This grave is, for example, so how is it on par with her? I wonder, why is the issue of integration so important?
I think historically, the East and West divide in Korea has been pretty pronounced. What has been added onto that is Korea's development so far, quite a success, but at the same time, it has generated a gap.
Truly reflected in her style of the personnel, selection, for example.
If there is an income gap that they can perceive, or the policies they can see, probably that's the one first thing that they'll grab onto.
랑 밤 10시 뉴스에 제가 출연해서 말도 하고 이렇게 만든 거, 제작한 거 보여주기도 하고. Families of its victims, by doing so, she has already set in motion is to restoring their honor.
I'm using my hand. For an in-depth look at the president's plan, our Yeon-ji joins us now in the studio. Hello, Yeon-ji.
Good evening, Sean Ji-hye. President Park's agenda for grand national unity is essentially two-pronged. First, push for balanced development across the nation, and second, make Korea an integrated nation where all people, regardless of class, region, or age, can live in harmony. One of the ways President Park plans to achieve balanced regional development is to furnish out the newly created administrative capital of Sejong in central Korea. So do you guys know about the East-West divide in Korea, in the
Regional
country?
divide?
Yes, regionalism in Korea, so to say.
Do go on.
So the East and West divide. So the East side covering the North and South Gyeongsang provinces mainly, and then the West side covering the North and South Cholla provinces. So actually modern-day regionalism goes back to President Park Geun-hye, the father of President Park Geun-hye.
Back in the 60s?
Yes, because he hails from Gumi, North Gyeongsang province, and his development projects focused on, it was concentrated on the east side of the country. So he purposely, invested a lot to develop this region, and a lot of, his cabinet ministers and other high government officials came from this area. And actually, the chaebol, family-owned conglomerates, they also come from this east side of the country. So actually, there's a huge imbalance, in terms of development across the nation. And so, and also, as we also saw in December, the voters, they voted along this regional lines.
Right.
So it was very obvious. So although it has lessened to some degree, it still continues to this day. And so that regional divide and the ideological divide and the generational gap, the people of the industrialization era and the people of the so-called democratization era, we have some major divides in the country. So what she means by grand national unity is to really embrace all these camps, blocks, and she wants to make sure that everyone has, for example, a fair opportunity to have a success in their business. And concerning the younger generation, she wants to make sure that firms and businesses, they have fair employment practices, giving quotas for women and people with disabilities, things like that. And there is this key project that she is pushing for. No specifics have been known yet, but I introduced in my in-depth. So there is this river in the southern part of the country. It flows along the borders of South Cholla and South Gyeongsang provinces, so like in the middle, and it flows into the South Sea. It's close to Yeosu, where the Yeosu Expo was held in 2012. So she wants to develop this region around the river so that people from both provinces can enjoy, and hopefully that would facilitate more exchanges of people and culture, things like that. So this is just one of the many projects that she's thinking about, and hopefully it'll come true and get realized, and hopefully she gets the funding necessary for that. So.
And also, looking back at her inauguration speech, we heard the word happiness being mentioned about 20 times,
yeah.
right? And a large part of your report, Ji-sun, was to do with this happiness and improving social welfare in the country. So how did that go? How did your story go?
Right. Out of the 5 government goals she suggested in her inauguration speech, and before that, welfare was the second priority. 급하게 오셨죠, 저희 때문에. 그러면서 이제 박근혜 대통령이 맞춤형 복지, 어떻게 보면 어떤 복지 정책이다라고 정의를 내릴 수 있을까요?
예, 맞춤형 복지라는 것은 개별적 복지와 보편적 복지의 한 중간 정도에서 경제도 살리면서 복지도 향상시키고.
박근혜 정부가 초기부터 상당히 약간 지시할 같은 방향 같은 게 교수님께 보시기엔 어떤 말씀이 있을까요?
정책 목표가 돼야 되지 단순히 외형적인 그래서 그런 부분에 의해서 지금 60%가 유지되고 있는 거예요. 지금 그나마.
For a closer analysis of these programs, Arirang News Song Ji-san joins us live from Arirang News Center. Ji-san, more than a week has passed since President Park stepped into the presidential office of Cheongwade. What are her plans for improving social welfare?
Well, Kanyang President Park Geun-hye listed welfare as her administration's second priority out of the 5 major policy goals she laid out before her inauguration. President Park Geun-hye has laid out a set of ambitious welfare plans she hopes will help improve life for the average Korean and help turn the economy around. One of the most important elements of her plan is something she calls the People's Happiness Pension. Starting in July of 2014, all senior citizens above the age of 65 will receive a pension based on their income level. The program is aimed at supporting those who either cannot or choose not to enroll in the national pension program. Senior citizens in the bottom 70% of the income bracket, who currently receive just $90 a month, will benefit most from the plan. They'll receive the maximum of 200,000 won, or about $184 a month. The rest of the population will receive monthly benefits in different amounts from $36 to $184 based on the number of years they've paid into the national pension program.
This whole project that's going on with the whole Grand National Unity, that takes money. Yours, I mean, obviously, takes money. So
It's
they can-
actually a total of 135 trillion won to be exact over the next 5
So
years.
how are they going to fund
Yeah,
that?
where's the
I mean,
money
thank
coming
you if we are the recipients, beneficiaries of the basic pension, but
Because President Park
Yeah.
Geun-hye pledged that she's not going to raise the tax
Tax.
to fund these things. So is this going to be possible?
Yeah, I mean, she's been sticking to that plan of not raising taxes, and it's been consistent since her campaigning days back in December. And her plans of funding those money comes from restructuring the government budget and spending. That means she's gonna do a better, business of incorporating her budget for the whole governance. But, it's not as concrete or structured as we thought. If she specified where she's gonna get the money from, which development, which department, or which account of the budget, we would at least understand. But she's actually just suggesting if I may say, a vague idea or a big picture. Okay, we'll get it from those budgets, but not from because she's not really insisting on raising taxes because that would only make people more resisting to the plans, and it's going to also raise opposition from the opposition parties as well.
no, at this point I feel like it's better to say, okay, realistically, the only way to do this is to raise taxes, because people, I think, are already feeling like this is not feasible. So just tell us the truth. It's okay, we will buy it. It's better than just, going on with this seemingly unfeasible plan and, have, suffer the drawbacks later on, don't you think?
So this latest measure just came out from the Senator Party to raise the cigarettes, the price of the cigarettes,
Right.
like by almost double the price. And obviously the opposite party say, oh, that's obviously the easiest way to raise taxes, because a lot of people smoke, and it's obviously the easiest way to raise taxes by that means of way, and it's not actually the smartest way we could come up with, right? Although it's not been enacted or at least proposed as a bill just yet, but that was the best the party could come up with.
I guess we'll have to see. I mean, this whole parliamentary quagmire that we're experiencing right now, this is a game of chicken. I don't know how long this is going to last and who's going to win at the end of the day, but we'll have to see. So while political tension is building up here in the South, obviously the military tension is also escalating here in the South and North Korea, on the Korean Peninsula. What happened, Connie, during this week?
Well, I was just thinking another thing for President Park to kind of handle in her next 5 years is North Korea, our closest neighbor. This week, they actually put out a lot of threats to the international community, a lot of anti-South Korea, anti-US rhetoric. The first being on Wednesday, they warned to scrap the 60-year armistice that ended the Korean War. I
Is
thought
this
that
the
was
first
pretty
time
big.
they came up with that sort of a threat?
I think so. I believe so. Yeah. And following that warning, the UN met in a closed-door meeting, and the U.S. and China, they actually agreed to toughen the sanctions against North Korea. And they say this time they're the toughest yet. Obviously, because North Korea has been acting a lot, and they also had their third nuclear test not too long ago. So this is all in reaction to that. And so Washington's UN ambassador Susan Rice said the newest sanctions will hopefully significantly impede North Korea from developing nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles. And I think the surprising point here is China also supported the sanctions. And China, as we know, they're one of North Korea's strongest ally, and they've been pretty supportive of North Korea. But this time, China's UN envoy also spoke out and said, no, we support these sanctions. And so, yeah, and today I see that North Korea, again, another anti-US, anti-South Korea rhetoric, said they'll turn South Korea into a sea of fire and the US into a sea of fire if they keep pressuring them to drop their nuclear program.
Yeah, I think this comes at a very ironic timing in a sense that, just a couple of days ago, several days before this whole statement was out, we've seen this very unusual footage from the north where leader Kim Jong-un and a former NBA star Dennis Rodman hugging and hanging out and having drinks and dinner at his palace, and it just seemed like he was sort of opening up and trying to express the fact that he's willing to have a conversation with President Barack Obama and promote these exchanges between the two countries, but I guess that's down the drain for now.
Right, and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said, we don't really count Dennis Rodman as being a spokesperson for the U.S. So I think that was kind of random on North Korea's part, and really who knows why Kim Jong-un invited him.
Right, well, on to some lighter news now. It was a start of a new school year for many students here in Korea. A lot of new stuff, like new friends, teachers, curriculums, and books, but also I hear that there's a new system that's being implemented in schools in the capital, in Seoul, that it's trying to
nationwide, actually, yeah.
Really?
So the new school here has started in March, and now that on the school grounds, not only are there students and teachers, but there are also police.
The nation's police are out in force at schools all across the nation, patrolling every corner of the schools inside and out, and also offering direct help to students in need.
You all have cell phones, so you can contact us directly, even through text messages, anytime you run into problems at school.
A total of 681 officers have been dispatched under a newly created school safety division. In addition to patrols, the officers lead educational programs on school violence and bullying.
But those some 700 police are going to cover the whole, all the schools in Korea?
Right, so I think their jobs right now is to patrol inside of the schools at all school hours, and also outside 200 meters away from the school too. So so on the first day of this news report, a lot of the police were just walking outside the school grounds, inside and out, and talking directly with students. And so I think the schools just want the presence there for the police to be there so that the bullies or the other students, the perpetrators, can be, I guess they can just hold back on whatever they were trying to do.
네, 감사합니다. 에카니 기자입니다. 반갑습니다. 경찰 방문이 학교 폭력의 예방에 효과적이라고 어떻게 생각하시나요?
경찰들이 이제 학교를 방문을 함으로써 학생들이 경각심을 갖게 되기 때문에 1차적으로 학교 폭력 예방을 하는 데 큰 도움이 된다고 저는 생각을 하고 있습니다. 많이 이제 감소하는 점, 학교 폭력으로 인해서 괴로워하거나 아니면 그걸로 인해서 자살까지 이르는 사태가 일어난다면 그거는 저희 정부가 적극적으로 그 일을 위해서 예방을 위해서 노력을 해야 된다고 생각합니다.
안녕하세요, 학생들. 안녕하세요. 네, 짧게 질문인데요. 이번에 새학기 시작했잖아요. 근데 학교 폭력을 예방하기 위해서 경찰들이 방문을 한대요. 그래서 혹시 우리 지금 아리랑 TV에서 왔는데 그거에 대해서 이렇게 제가 지금 질문하듯이 짧게 이렇게 멘트 할 수 있나요? 야? 굿?
잘해. 기자 누나 쳐다보고 얼굴은. 전화를 시켜주는 거 그런 지침하는 게 맞는
알겠습니다.
거기에 터지 얘기 한번 누나 서가지고 하는 거.
고마워요.
와, 뭐하고? 저기 저 앞에 저 SNT 있지?
With this initiative still in the early stages of development and maybe too on the violence in schools. Connie Lee, Arirang News. 아, 고마워요. Thank you. 고마워요. 고맙습니다.
Because I'm seeing a police in school, it's just
Yeah,
it must be a little nerve-wracking at
So
first.
quite intrusive in a sense if you look at it that way. But like you said, it's a very serious matter here in Korea. I hear that 1 out of 5 students or children have gone through some sort of an abuse, whether it be verbal or physical. And also like 30% of the students thought about committing suicide
Right.
in the more than
And
once.
already, like, the academic stress is so high, and to add to that, peer pressure or just harassing from peers, like, I can't imagine just how much the students are going through. And so already we heard sad reports of students either, running away from home or actually committing suicide at the start of the new year because they were afraid of being bullied or being an outcast in their schools.
Well, hopefully this new measure could help them ensure more of a safe and more friendly environment for the students to being educated. Well, today we covered a wide range of issues. Thank you very much for the wrap-up and also raising some very important and very interesting points. And I'll see you guys back here next week. Thank you very much.
Bye. See you.
Korea's southernmost resort island of Jeju is not only attracting a growing number of tourists from around the world, but also Chinese investors who are willing to pour in Chinese money to build resorts and other leisure facilities there. Yudian traveled all the way down south to cover these stories and more, and she files us this video clip from Jeju Island.
Hi, in the newsroom viewers. I'm actually in Jeju Island bringing you this story, and it's the first story that I've covered on so far from Seoul City, so I'm really excited to be here. Now, the story that I've covered today is actually about the transitional period that Jeju Island is going through, from becoming just known for its beautiful scenery to becoming a truly global international city. I went to a groundbreaking ceremony for a resort earlier today, and that resort is not like the common resorts that are already here in Jeju Island. It's going to serve multi-purposes, whether it's for leisure or business. It's going to also have the country's biggest casino and the island's first outlet as well. So it's really going to, they think, bring a lot of international visitors to the island. Now, tomorrow, the story that I'm going to be covering is a little bit different. It's on the amount of foreign investment that is pouring into Jeju Island. And that all sounds really good, but I feel like that could also have some side effects, so I'll look into that tomorrow. Well, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
President's plans for social welfare and